What's going on, reefers? Happy Wednesday. Today we have on Tim from Purple Monster Corals. It's been a while. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Hey, how's things in the Solomon Islands?
Solomons are great. We're coming into rainy season, so it's a little more overcast and gray out. But yeah, it's great here. It's always warm, usually sunny.
That's nice. Does the rainy season, actually on your side for like collecting and growing, does it make much of a difference for you? Rainy versus non-rainy, I guess, summer?
I mean, it makes crossing over to the islands really unpleasant, but not impossible. I mean, so from Christmas until about Valentine's Day,
Mhm.
We'll get cyclones. It'll get nasty. So we have to really be careful. But rainy season, it's warm rain, so you're wet, but it's not uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's fair. And then if you're going in the water anyways, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Do you, okay, just my own curiosity, because I know a lot of stuff is grown in the ocean. Do you grow much inside as well, or is it basically all in the ocean?
We've done, sorry about that. We've done where we were holding corals a couple of years back. We had collected corals in anticipation for like an early December shipment that didn't go through. We had like a logistics issue. And so we held the corals until I think February or March of the following year.
Mhm.
And like the Recordias and a lot of the soft corals had split. And so we maybe had like 30% more Recordias after that period of time,
Bonus.
which was nice because they were all like high end, really nice Recordias. But electricity in the Solomons is the most expensive electricity in the world. It's the top. So I run my tanks on as little electricity and as little light as like supplemental light as I can. It's actually like, this is my warehouse. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So like that's my system, and I run it on a single power head. That gives me enough circulation to keep corals happy. So,
Nice.
15 watts, but it's not propagating. Like to propagate would require, intensive lighting and
yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. Just out of curiosity, how crazy is the power out there?
I don't know how to I know that it's like 4 times what I'm paying in LA, but I haven't run the like apples to apples metric for it. It hurts. I'm spending like $40 a week, and that's for a laptop, a couple of power heads, a very small freezer to have ice blocks for exports, and like that's $40 US a week.
Very minimal then.
To expand it, to have protein skimmers and just more, that becomes a cost of business at that point.
Yeah, that's fair. So Mother Nature's obviously good at it, so she's nice and cheap.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you no, just out of curiosity, because I know like inside you have like basically very minimal lighting and just what's coming in. When you're growing it in the ocean, because I know a lot of people always talk about how much PAR and intensity. Like how intense is the sun? Like I don't know if everyone's ever taken a PAR meter down.
Really intense. Like 600 PAR. Like you'll if we take up coral from collection, like broodstock collection, and put it onto the area where we're farming acroporas, you'll sunburn them right away. They'll shock out. A lot of them won't survive. You have to bring them up to that, and that gives you I'm sorry, my voice.
No problem.
That'll give you faster growth, but yeah, you'll shock out corals absolutely if you bring them up too quickly.
So do you have do you kind of like have like a mid stop where you let it hang out for a bit before you bring it up to normal rocks?
Yeah, so we have broodstock storage areas, and then we have our farming areas. And farming is it's done almost entirely by villagers, and so they're snorkeling. I can't ferry scuba bottles and just the risks of all of that. So it's done at snorkeling depth, and snorkeling depth, you're 500 plus PAR.
Oh, easily.
And you get those ribbons of light that are even more intense. So a lot of the corals that are used to living at 30, 40 feet that just nukes them.
Huh. So even, I guess like over time, once they get adapted to that more intensity, do you notice a big difference in the shallow, having the same coral in shallow versus, 30, 40 feet down?
Yeah. Yes. So different colors. You get more like white light corals that look better under white light. Milliporas look amazing, but they always change. So like we'll get more blue pigments when they're very shallow than we do at depth. So, corals that we're collecting at 30, 40 feet, you don't see the blue, and blue doesn't fluoresce very much. So it's more of like a reflective, giving off that blue light from the sun. They're trying to bounce it off and not absorb it.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of crazy. What are some other, I guess, big differences that you'd notice versus like deeper versus the same coral brought up to shallow, like changes over time?
We'll see. We'll definitely see, like, well, we have to worry about light stressing. Like, you'll see corals will shock out, right? They'll,
Yep.
they'll just shut down and peel if you bring them up too quickly. But I've even like collected and then grown like locanis at like, collected 15, 20 feet and then farmed them out.
Hmm.
They're denser. They're not as open because they're photosynthesizing instead of just, or mostly prey capture. That sort of ratio between prey capture, like the heterotrophic to autotrophic ratio, they're capturing more food.
Yep.
And so structurally they'll change. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's always kind of curious too, like, what's like proper wild, to farm wild to aquarium, like how much the coral
Hmm.
changes and adapts to the different environments.
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
with them, I know it's mainly in the ocean, so it's probably hard to say, but doing, like a corals in a tank versus one in the oceans, obviously there's different chemistry, there's different lighting, there's different flow.
Hmm.
For people trying to replicate it, do you think it's better for them to try and replicate the ocean as much as possible, or it's better just, keep your parameters stable as can be, general hobbyist
I think
style?
that, coming up, like I worked at wholesalers for years, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, I think that we take for granted how sort of static things are on a reef. Like, once a coral picks a spot, it's gonna live on that spot for the rest of its life. Whereas in captivity, we tend to like place a coral and then we move it or we treat it or we dip it or we trim it. And so the corals are always getting futzed with.
Hmm.
Whereas in the wild, it's sort of a timeless environment. And so they can orient themselves to the flow that they're given.
Yep.
There's no way you can replicate the ocean. I mean, there's no way you can let's say realistically, not no way, but like,
Hmm.
challenge accepted. But like, you can't replicate the ocean. It's got so much flow. It's got so much food. It's all like this, the stability, you can't duplicate it, but we do our best.
Yeah.
But I think that the thing that doesn't get discussed is like the time or the lack of chaos. Like, things are pretty, like, once things are dialed in for that coral, it doesn't experience a whole lot of like dynamic change for a
Hmm.
long time, for very long periods of time. So it has more like predictable weather patterns and predictable chaos in its flow,
Yep.
and it adapts to that. Yeah.
So, and actually, another for my own curiosity, in the ocean, I know some people in their tanks, they'll like dial down flow at nighttime, make it
Mhm.
calmer, and some just keep it the same crazy all the time around. In the ocean, like in your experience, does it change much from night to day, or is it basically the same thing constantly?
Well, there's tides, of course, but those
Hmm.
are on like a, like 6 hour, you know, parabola. Um, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. But I haven't noticed, like, because the sun's down, the tides change or the currents change. I have not noticed that. We have switching currents here. There's areas that we dive on where, predictably it'll be coming this way for a couple hours and then it switches out. But not like throughout the like a time throughout the day. It's just it's on its course.
Yeah.
So, but in my home tanks, no, I wouldn't do like a break at night. I would do a short break to let sediment settle,
Hmm.
right? So you can create little like areas of like the area of lowest flow where sediment tends to settle, so you can siphon things out. But no, I wouldn't recommend like a nighttime break.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about for flow wise? Because like I historically, I would just leave mine on kind of like a random reef crest kind of mode where it just goes up and
Hmm.
down. I just leave like that 24/7. I
Hmm.
know some will like swap sides of the tank and like alternate the direction of
Right.
flow, kind of like tides. Do you think that's valuable
Hmm.
to do in a system?
I played with that. I did play with that, and I didn't notice a difference here. We've got one power head, like the systems are basically like a rectangle with a shark fin
Yep.
to create a gyre. And again, I'm trying to run as much flow with as little electricity as possible, but
Mhm.
we can hold corals for weeks. And again, I'm not growing coral for beauty. I'm growing coral to hold it, or I'm holding coral to sell it.
Yeah.
But I can stage coral for weeks, and it's perfectly happy. It's not, diminishing in health, and that's with one gyre of flow. And that's an efficiency thing, and it's fine. At home, when I had a home tank, when I was living in LA, I had two MP10s, little MP10s on like a 60-gallon tank doing switching, and it was pretty. And I did like I liked, seeing kind of fish sort of had a little dance to them.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't see that in nature, right?
Okay.
Like, in nature, you can have the kind of flow where, you're holding on to a reef. Just, I'm like, I'm a good swimmer, and there's reefs where I'm swimming my tail off just to stay in place. Like, you
Yep.
can't simulate that kind of flow in a tank, and corals are happy in that. But it's not a switching. It's
Constant.
constant. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done, dives like that where, it's drift dive and you're going to be pulled away if you're not holding on to a
Yeah,
rock. Like it's
yeah,
it's surprisingly strong.
yeah. You're on a conveyor belt,
Yeah,
basically.
pretty
Yeah.
much. So corals that are living in that, do they tend to grow like either towards the flow or away from it, or is there any kind of consistency with that?
No, because it's dynamic. Because it could be flowing, this way, and then it'll throughout the day it'll change like this, and it'll change like that. The coral will adapt to its best fit in
Mhm.
the way that like trees in the forest will kind of slowly spiral over many 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 years to find like their true north.
Yeah.
Um, Corals adapt to it, but it's not like they're on a compass point, right? Like where it's gonna be perfect north or perfect west.
Mhm.
Um, I do see again like when I was working wholesale where we were dipping corals regularly and trimming corals regularly, corals would get a very amorphous sort of twisty shape because they're constantly getting pulled, cut, trimmed, moved.
Yeah.
And so they don't have an orientation. They don't look like wild corals. Wild corals follow like almost like snowflake patterns. Like they have a pretty predictable branching pattern unless something, damages them or upsets them. They have a pretty set like radiating series of branches.
Mhm.
So you don't see that as often in captive raised corals.
Yeah.
It's lack of flow
Yeah.
and changes.
That's fair. I feel like most people don't have enough flow in their tank. I know that's kind of
I
like a
agree.
common thing. Like
Yeah.
we just do not comprehend the difference between the ocean and a tank.
Well, it's also
So,
it's hard. I mean that means more micro bubbles. It means more salt creep. It means you know more. You need a bigger delta between the water line and the top of your tank, or a good Euro brace. Like
yep.
it just introduces a lot of problems. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've been trying to subtly play with like creating like on top of my random flows, creating a bit of a like a wave pulse throughout the tank
Uh huh.
to see how that
Uh huh.
changes things, but I'm always
I like them. I
experimenting.
mean, again, I like them. It's cool. It sort of shows you're paying attention to details,
Mhm.
but I don't know yet if that makes an actual, you know, noticeable,
Yeah,
objectable like difference. Yeah.
no, for sure. And then I guess like, is there any difference in the growth patterns between 30, 40 feet collecting it to snorkel depth where you're farming it?
Yeah. They're denser. So corals that are collected in the shallows, like, are just shallows are denser. And I don't know if that's them creating shade for themselves, but you'll see like a denser ball, like a combreose, like a pillow shaped coral will be a denser pillow,
Hmm.
whereas down deeper, it'll be just a little more open, a little more relaxed. And
Okay.
I don't know if that's to better adapt for flow or to allow food to come in better to trap it.
Hmm.
I'm really not sure what there is, but there is a noticeable difference.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah. One of these days I still have to make it out there. It'd be really cool to check it out in
absolutely.
person. That'd
Yeah,
be awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah, and then guys in the chat, if you got any specific questions, fire them our way. I did do a couple posts earlier, and like most of them are the general ones, like on tips on growing stuff or getting better
Mhm.
colors. You know, like you were saying
More light,
earlier,
more flow. Yeah,
more light, more
yeah,
flow.
yeah.
How about nutrient levels? Do you think higher or lower make a substantial difference?
Depending upon the species dependent. I mean, if you're growing hyacinthus, they want really sterile water conditions. They want clean, low nutrient, open ocean water where they're not getting nutrient. If you're growing certain like we're playing with rosea now, like different corals that we're collecting in more mangrovey areas, like they need it because those areas have like a silty sediment layer. It's
Mm,
the same areas that we're collecting chalice.
yeah,
So, yeah, I think it's very much species dependent.
yeah, makes sense. K13, how much flow in gallons per hour? Yeah, I don't know how you quantify the ocean, but it's a lot.
It's scary. Like, yeah, but when I was a kid, my dad put in like a swimming loop in our pool where it was just like a dedicated pump. Instead of one pump that ran the
Yeah.
whole pool, he had a separate pump that was just just to create a nozzle that you swim into. That doesn't equate to the ocean. Like the ocean would be 50 of those
Hmm.
in a line. I mean, it's nuts. I do like the Pantaray has those like river stream tanks
Hmm.
where they have an input on one side and then it pipes it over to the other side and then pumps the water out. And then I don't know if they tilt the tank or just the way it's presented, but it looks like the tank is tilted a little bit.
Yeah, it's
And
funky.
those flow. Those are really cool. I haven't seen that done in saltwater yet. That would be kind of interesting.
Saltwater river tank. That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
like a
If you,
slice of a high flow reef.
I saw one design that was actually kind of cool, where it overflowed off the hole was like a coast to coast overflow, and then the return pump was on the other side. So basically, like force that wall of water to almost like a
Yep,
built-in gyre. That's kind of a
yep.
cool way to do it.
That's very cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do 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 do. So okay, so if people are ordering courses, this is another big one too. I see all the time. When stuff's coming in from shipping, one, would you recommend people dip stuff? I know that can stress fresh corals. Another thing is too, is there any better, proper ways to acclimate it and, up some success on, fresh corals coming in?
Yeah. I believe working with an importer that takes the time with their corals. Big difference between somebody who's flipping a coral, like it lands and the next day they're trying to get it out of their facility, versus a wholesaler or an importer who's going to receive the corals, treat them, make sure that they're pest free. Not everyone does that. So I've worked for wholesalers that do. I've worked for retailers that do, where they're going through and they're dipping their corals and they're trimming them. We pull crabs to the best of our ability, just because it's a potential source of stress on the coral when it's shipping. So even the beneficial crabs we pull out, just because I don't need a good crab dying and then pulling the coral with it, mid shipping. But like all pests need to be, it needs to be cleaned. So when you're bringing things in from the wild, it's a huge X factor. It's you got a lot of dance partners effectively when you're pulling in wild corals into a tank. Again, it's been a long time since I've had a home tank, but once my tank was set up, I was fastidious about like what livestock went in, especially what fish, because fish transmit disease really easily. But yeah, I became a real stickler on like what went in. When I was working for an LA-based wholesaler retailer, we had like major raceway systems, and one of the raceways was dedicated to importing. And then once corals stood the test of time, they would get graduated into the main system. And if there was any evidence of like pests or parasites, it would get bumped back down. I don't know that everyone has the space to do that. It's hard.
That's
it's really hard to stay on top of that.
Yeah. I've, in my early days of reefing, and, I was dip everything, but I also know anything fresh or shipping stress that could, do it in. So, ideally you are better just hold it and, let it hang out for a while and then deal with stuff if anything shows itself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zach.
One of our, I'm sorry, I don't want to step on you.
Oh, no, go ahead. This is a comment. I'll go back to it in a second.
One of the vendors that in the early days of setting this company up, we were trying to dance with Top Shelf to like name drop a company. And they have really strict quarantine and dipping procedures. And at the time, like our main product line was Millipora. And they're like, yeah, we can't, because it doesn't survive our quarantine procedures. Like our procedures are too strict and we're not willing to compromise them. And I thought that was really cool. Like it meant that we didn't really get to do business together, but they stood to their guns on it, because it's really easy to compromise procedures to like for money, right? And they didn't. So yeah, hats off to them. That was cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate when you're buying coral, especially, right, to know that they're doing everything they can to make sure it's healthy and pest free, and you'll be more successful. So it's good. It's good. Okay, in the comments, Zach, what's a good par to aim for when acclimating SPS? Peak at the top of my tank's around 550. Was thinking about 250 to 300. Yeah, that's pretty safe.
Yeah, 250 is safe. It's enough light that they're not going to starve, but it's not so much you're going to burn them. Yep. And then gradually bring it up to 500 or 500 plus if you're trying to like really tweak colors.
Yeah, I'd say for the average person, 250 to 350 is like a very easy, happy range for most of the tank. If you are actually paying attention to your parameters and dialing it more, you can definitely push it higher. But yeah, that's a good general safe spot.
I really want a par meter with a deep enough lead, or it's water tight enough depth, durable enough. It's such a specific tool that I doubt it's made, but I want to be able to sort of plot a lot of the corals we're collecting deep water. Like when I'm collecting a Lucani at 65 feet, like what is the par there? It's probably 40, 50. It's really dim.
I wonder, I was actually had a conversation with somebody with this like 2 days ago. Those like cell phone bags you can get to take your phone in the water? I wonder if how well the par meter would work through one of those. Like it obviously affect it, cut it back. But if you knew like, okay, it knocks off 50 par or a certain percentage, you'd be able to math it.
You could probably quantify that, like how much is cut by that. Yeah. It's an expensive piece of equipment. I want to find out the hard way, but it's really good info. It's like really important, really good info. Yeah.
No, exactly. If I make it out there one day, I'll bring mine and we'll figure this out.
Have a disposable phone, like a.
Well, we could, or get like one of those little clear waterproof cases and just like drill a little hole for like the thing and like silicone in the sensor, so it's good. And then, but you still got to hit the power button on the thing underwater. There's a way. There's a will. There's a way.
Yeah.
Be a good experiment. I support this.
Yeah.
Cordless power meter. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Right.
There will be a way. I'll ask the Apogee guys if they have anything. I'll be like, hey, We need to do this.
There might be like a like a data logging. It's just because you can't transmit radio signals through water, and so like if you take a reading, you could take multiple readings. You just have to know what was on. But yeah, it would be an interesting but very specific piece of equipment.
It would be. I feel like we can make one. Okay, we'll work on this. We need new equipment. That's all you hear. Well, okay, this is a very special case, but it's good information.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so you mainly do exporters. Can a store import directly through you, or do you need to go through like a wholesaler or a transhipper or someone in the middle?
Yeah. So I have a cough come. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
We work with the major wholesalers importing. We've occasionally, just for business survival, had to break down a couple times, and we went to stores. So we'll see where it goes. In an ideal world, there's a food chain of sorts between the exporters sending into the major importers. Those importers place enough orders that it just in a normal situation, a company like me just can't be bothered. And it sounds haughty, but it's just at the scale of what we're doing. For me to get one tailor-made box to a customer, which has species identification for international paperwork requirements, it's difficult. There's also the fact that CITES, which is the paperwork that has to travel internationally with all coral is to the end user.
Yeah.
And so an end user would then have to receive those corals, stage them, hold them, and then distribute them after point of sale. So it's complicated. And a lot of that complication just kills business and kills the scale of what we're doing. So the wholesalers are more able to I can take 20, 30 boxes and then sell them to an importer or sell them to a retailer who can then sell individual corals or 4 or 5 corals.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a lot of work unless you got the scale to justify it.
Yeah, it's like the elasticity of space. To be able to take 30 boxes of coral is a lot of space of saltwater tanks ready to receive. Yeah. Stores don't have that. Stores might have 200 gallons or 300 gallons of space to receive something, but never thousands.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Do it. So with your farm out there, how many different farming, is it one farming area? Do you have multiple ones spread out in different locations?
We have multiple areas. In a different time, in a different iteration of this business, I had 52 active farmers on the eastern end of this island. COVID, and being stuck out of the country for a couple of years really put like a wet towel on top of that.
Yeah.
We're waking things back up, but right now there's 3 major areas that I grow things, and that's just because each area has different groups of people with different, activity, different interests in farming, but different species that grow naturally there. Where Indonesia, my understanding is in Indonesia, you can't move corals. The corals collected in this region can't be brought to this region. They have to be farmed there. And that's like a biosecurity quarantine type thing. It makes sense. Solomons doesn't have that restriction. It's a smaller country. The Solomons doesn't have that restriction. But still, if for ease of reference, a purple monster tends to grow really well on this island, grow it there rather than bringing it over to another farm and growing it, another spot. Chalice is another example. There are reefs that I'll dive on that are chalice is the dominant species. So farm it there rather than trying to farm it, where I'm growing acros or, lower, but where I'm trying to grow acros, because the conditions that they're naturally in, the nature has already sort of worked out what those corals need. So it's easier to farm them right there.
Now, have you dabbled and tried to put, the same thing at 4 different farms and, it just does better one?
They don't thrive. They don't grow as fast. And excuse me. We'll do it a little bit for biosecurity, for
backup,
like an insurance policy. Yeah. So right before I had come in the first time in 2007, in Western Province, a whole island got tilted, and the reef on one end of it was lifted 3 feet out of water.
Oh, crazy.
So if we had farms on an area like that, because that's an ideal farming area, now it's not. Now you're not farming there, and so How did it
get tilted? That is crazy.
Earthquake.
Wow.
Yeah. The whole reef of the island got pulled out of the water.
Wow, that'd be crazy to see.
Well, it's the whole reef, the shallow end of the reef. The deep ends would have been fine, but that's where it drops off a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
screwed up the fishing. It really affected lives there. And it's really earthquake prone here. I grew up in LA, and so we get earthquakes there. They hit a little different. In California, they tend to be vertical, so it's like a hopping, whereas here it's more of a side swaying. But I've had 7s in this building.
Oh wow.
but not,
Crazy.
I've never seen, I'm on Guadalcanal. I've never seen Guadalcanal move because
Yeah.
of it. But, this island did get lifted off the seafloor from earthquakes over a period of time. So,
That's crazy. Huh.
hmm yeah,
Never.
Solomon's is where it's where two oceanic plates are butting up, and both of them are going upwards instead of one subducting under the
Yeah.
other one. They're both going nope and popping up. So it's a twin chain of islands.
Huh. Crazy.
Yeah.
Huh. I've never heard of it like tilting like that. But that makes
hmm
sense. Especially if
hmm
you're on that plate that's on the uppity up.
hmm
Oh, so crazy. Um, so okay, another comment. Do you have to buy a permit like gold mining to keep a farm like that? Yeah. So do you have like permitted plots that you're allocated to it more or less?
Well, no. So as far as the farming, there's a whole lot of sovereignty is the word I would use that's given to each landholder,
Mm.
and that's sort of recognizing like tribal rights going back prehistory. So if a tribe has rights to a piece of land, they really can do kind of whatever they want with it and the resources that are on it, and that extends below the water line into like the low tide line,
Mm.
I think. And so yeah, like if somebody wants to farm corals, they farm corals. They'd have to have a regional business license for their province, like it'd be like a state level
Yep.
business license. But for me to export to the United States, I very much had to have a license, and that took me years to get. It was I want to say onerous. Not just anybody should be able to export,
Mm.
recognized endangered species, right? But in the villages, it's more of them trusting. It's more of like building a relationship, and they know that you're not gonna, you know, deceive them on prices or get them busy working on something and then not buying it.
Yep.
Like, people are when you live in a place that like in a village, they don't have a whole lot of money currency. They have time. They have am I going to be, if I'm not farming corals, then I'm busy, raising sweet potatoes and, or farming some other cash crop. And so like, if I'm taking away from that, they want to know that like in 6 months, is this going to actually put money in their pocket?
Yeah.
Outside of that, they don't need a permit.
Mm. Okay, that kind of makes sense, but more just like logistically to ship it and everything else where it comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. On the shipping side,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's strict. Yeah.
Oh, Alyssa, island life, I love it. I can't imagine dealing with tribes. So initially, I mean, it's probably like a major trust building thing to initially establish these and, work with them to grow it and do it. That's got to be a journey in itself.
Yeah. It was actually really cool. The first time that we went to have a cough. I'm sorry with this cough, this persistent cough.
It's okay. We still appreciate you coming on.
The first time that we went to the eastern end of this island, or the western end of this island, where we had the coral farms, Jake was with us. So he was there to do a video on the farming with the Morale Sound coral farmers. Like he was there, and that was the paramount chief of the area was there, but we had multiple chiefs there. We had multiple village representatives, like just to sort of suss us out. Like, are these guys for real?
Mm-hmm.
Or again, this is going to be some other outside investor or some outside interest like spinning us up and not delivering. So yeah. I've since then had to have like multiple meetings with Paramount Chief to like make sure we're still on target and all that. Yeah.
Do out of curiosity, how does it work for a lot of them? Because like a lot of them are the ones that are actually maintaining the corals and like farming it to an extent.
It's like 1 day a week. It's not a major time sink. It's really not. We usually say like on Saturdays, when you have a down day, go out, toothbrush the corals and just sort of do some minor maintenance. It's not like, heavy back breaking labor,
Just go tend to it, make sure it's not covered in algae and just the basic stuff.
Exactly. Make sure fish aren't flipping them over. Yeah.
Yeah. That probably happens too.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right. That's pretty cool. Now for them, is it like a job or is it like maintaining a crop, like that mentality, or is it?
So most everybody here, I would say 90+% of the population of the Solomon Islands is rural, lives in the villages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like making your own food is just part of that lifestyle, or going fishing is part of that lifestyle. And if they grow extra food, then they pile it into a community or a church community boat and then send it to town, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like cash cropping and sustenance farming, those are all really like, those are just known. It's like in their DNA.
Yeah.
And so this is just, we treat it like another product. I liken it to being like pineapples, where pineapples is like, most people, if you're farming or producing pineapples, it takes a long time. It's months, and then you get a pineapple. And here, a pineapple's like $25 Solomon. It's like $3 US for a pineapple, which is a relatively high end item, and it takes a pretty big space. And so when I'm talking with them, it's like, well, coral is like a 6-week turnover, and it takes up a lot smaller space. Like I'll provide all of the all the hard goods that they need, the steel and the rebar and the tools. I provide all that fishing line, cement. All they have to do is sort of maintain it for 6 weeks to farm, and the yield is a lot better than a pineapple.
Yeah.
So it's usually like, oh, okay, now they can see it. Like if I break it down in terms like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, less work, better return, less space.
Yeah,
I guess the ocean's
If
easy
anything,
space.
if anything, and again, that whole trust issue was when I got started in an area, then like their brothers like, oh, they start seeing big numbers of like, well, then I'll grow 1,000 or I'll grow 1,000.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't take that many. I don't have the market for that. So
Yep.
a lot of the work on my end was actually like lowering expectations and sort of keeping the brakes pumped so we could grow it organically at the right size.
Then from like the business side, how often do you go out and collect something new versus what just comes off of the farm?
As often as we can.
Yeah,
as often as we can. People always want more. We do really well with Millipora. That's always in demand, different colors of Millipora, but they're always looking for new things. And also customers change their minds a lot. So we can have a lot of, let's say, leather corals planted, and then the customer's like, I don't really want leather coral. Last week I didn't do well selling it, so bring me a bunch of these, like lobophilia. I'm like, okay, well, I happen to be already staged a few hundred pieces of lobophilia, so we can go, call that up and bring them in.
Yep. Greg, Tim, are you saying you incentivize locals to grow coral over food? Better than pineapples, man. Just pineapples.
Well, definitely, yeah. As a cash crop, it's better, because cash crops aren't grown for food. Cash crops are purely things you grow to sell.
Yeah.
It's not going to feed, you're not going to feed your family, but you're going to get cash, which you can then go buy here. All schools are private, so that if your kids are going to school and you have to have a uniform, there's no, like, everyone
got to pay for
it. It's very different from where I grew up with public schools and you don't have to have a uniform, but here you must have a uniform, and it's all private schools. So you have to pay school fees, which is cash, and you have to have uniforms for your kids, and you have to buy books and pencils and all those things, which require cash.
Yeah.
So it allows those things.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering too, partially, is a lot of it more trading or is it like more cash? And then,
cash.
Yeah.
There's the interesting one here is shell money. So like in the States, like stateside, you have like puka shell necklaces, and it just seems like sort of a fashion statement. But here, those puka shells actually have a monetary value. Like brown shells are worth, let's say, $5 a piece or $4 a piece. White shells are the low end ones. Yeah. And then the dark red shells are the like 5 to 8 times the value of the next level one, and they're used actually for like ceremonial. If one tribe does a really bad thing, like a really nasty thing to another tribe, as part of like the I'm sorry ceremony, they'll have like bundles of shell necklaces, which is like a money exchange.
Oh, crazy! It's kind of like their own currency in a way. That's kind of cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have a stash of puka shells?
I don't, but
okay.
yeah. They just want money from me. Yeah.
I know. That's awesome. So is Millipora probably your most popular one still?
By far.
By far?
Yeah, by far. Yeah.
They're beautiful.
It's fast growing. It's gorgeous. It kind of checks all the boxes.
Yep. How, I guess, vast is the variety of the ones that you have out there?
I haven't actually like done a chart of like, blue tip with green polyp with pink base versus red base versus purple tip. But 40, maybe 45, 50 different like variables, I'd say, in whatever combination of those.
Nice.
So like a what I sell is a blue Millipora. It can be a pink base that fades to blue. Maybe it's got some yellow axials. And either does or doesn't. They usually do have green polyps on them. So like there's a number of different qualifiers to sort of like, like on a palm tree, like the crown shaft, the ramentum, the lamellae, like all the different little bits of that coral, you can sort of break it down to.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty good. It's a good spread. So what's probably the second hottest one after Millipora?
We're getting asked for deep water now.
Yeah.
So like Lucani, what is it? Lucani and what's the other one? Begins with an S, not Sarmentosa. Sarmentosa we get a lot of, but no one likes it. That's one that's common in both shallow and deep, but if I collect it, like maybe 3% of the volume we do would be of our output, but what I could collect would be half. Yeah. What's the name of it? Not Speciosa. We get asked for Speciosa. We see more Echinata. Gosh, there is one. It begins with an S. It's deeper water. it looks almost like a microlados, but it's like stretched. It's sort of like has more. It's taller.
I think I know what it is, but I'm blanking on
Fasciculata.
the name.
Yeah, if I looked at it, I'd say Salago.
Okay.
Salago. So Salago, we're doing really well with that right now.
Nice. Yeah. Does Tim farm fish? Just coral, right? No fish?
Just coral. Yeah. I've gotten asked for fish a couple times. We facilitated fish a few times. But my facility is made to hold coral. For us to pivot into fish would require a pretty big reinvestment. And it's just not what we do. Do what you're good at and what you're passionate about. I feel like we would sort of half-ass deliver on fish if we became a fish exporter. Yep. We've done like blue tang. I can do. I've done percula clowns. We sent a number of like net caught percula clown pairs, like caught as pairs, sent as pairs, to a customer in the United States. Those are really nice, and I'm surprised there's not more demand for perculas. I guess it's me trying to drum up some business, right? But like, I'm surprised there's shameless plug that there's not demand for it, because the farmed clowns are kind of goofy. If you've ever kept them, they'll want to swim up in the corner of the tank, or they'll host to a coral. Like, they don't act like clownfish, whereas wild ones do. Or they'll have like goofy sort of big heads or underbites, stuff like that. But so I'm surprised there's not more demand for fresher percula DNA, but we get those. And then black puffers that we get here are kind of cool. The midnight puffers or black dogface.
Nice.
Those are endemic to the Solomons. Those are endemic to like one island chain here in the Solomons.
Oh, crazy. Coral's probably a lot easier to deal with on the whole.
Well, coral doesn't run away.
Exactly.
Like, if you're collecting it, it's like, that's a cool coral. I'll chip it and take it, or take half, farm it. But like a fish, you have to you have to wrangle it. Yeah.
So earlier you're saying with a lot of the corals, it's like a 6-week turnaround. Is that kind of the time it takes for it?
For farming, it's 6 to 8 weeks usually on farming.
And that's
on shallow water acropora. On chalice, it's a lot slower. Lobophilia a lot slower. Yeah, Euphilia a lot slower.
Yeah. Do you export a lot of those ones as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we do well with chalice. Everyone wants yellow-eyed chalice. Like we can that it's almost like I liken it to like a Ferrari dealership. Like the Ferraris sell themselves,
Yeah.
Whereas like the A grades, the other color varieties we usually package in with them. Euphilia, we do really well with Euphilia as well. So I would say, if the biggest aspect of what we export is Millipora, it would be followed by probably Recordia, then like Euphilia yeamensis, chalice, and then more like different types of acropora. I think that's like the Venn diagram of like, or the pie chart of like what we sell.
Nice. I actually haven't seen a lot of nicer Recordia in a while. There used to be tons, and now they've seemed to like, I think because a lot came from Florida, and that's gone way down.
Right.
So
right. No, we have like 8 or 9 different color, what do you call it? Like color chains or color blocks of Recordias that we sell. Like ones that are purples, like purple and yellow. And those are going to kind of like, our volume on those is not very high, and they're going to mostly like collector vendors. So, they're becoming $1,000 polyp Recordias. So it's kind of a very specific market. But yeah, we have like really awesome yellowy greens and purples. Nice. I think in the, I know in the block of photos that we sent you, we have some of those.
Here, let me pull one up. It was a bit of a crazy day, so I didn't get to preload them all off of my phone. But
sure.
But yeah, there's definitely some pretty ones out there. So when I bribe someone in Canada to start stocking some of your guys' stuff, what's the minimum amount of boxes to bring in?
I think we can do like a 10 box into Canada to try it out. We're just getting that'd be a knack for we sent to that's LA.
Love all those polyps. Love it. Beautiful.
Yeah. Shaggy. I know that Jose is working on freight rates right now. We've gotten quotes, so it shouldn't be that hard to get it moving. Yeah.
All right, we'll talk later. I will bribe one of the wholesalers, someone in Canada, so we can start getting this stuff on the side of the imaginary line. That's a cool looking one too.
Yeah, it's a little tiny chip too. Like that's barely a frag.
Yeah. That's actually some really cool Recordias.
Yeah. Yeah, the purple with green. Yeah.
Yep. Those are really cool.
I know the exact reef that we're collecting those on. Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So, about yourself, do you have any favorite corals?
Me?
Yeah.
Um, I've always liked Acropora robusta, and I feel like it's just not in that many tanks. It's a coral that definitely looks best in yellow light, like in shallow yellow light. It wants a ton of flow, wants to get slammed by waves
Yeah.
because it's in that sort of wave churn area. I've seen it growing like that perfect green to pink tip. In almost a river mouth. Like there was a freshwater lens and it was growing into the freshwater lens. So it had like freshwater on the top tip and saltwater underneath it. Because
crazy.
when a river runs into the sea, it sort of doesn't mix for a little bit. And this robusta was growing into that and it was happy as could be. It's just a really cool coral.
That's cool.
Yeah. Under normal conditions, it'll have like forearm thick branches. Like it's a really big
That's
coral.
huge.
It's not perfect for more. It's huge. Yep. It's not perfect for most tanks. It's a staghorn, but it's not like a big. It doesn't form a big monospecific stand. It usually, I'll see it growing in with hyacinthus, and I'll see it growing in with Millipora. So it's in those sort of shallow, clean water, high energy areas. Huh. Really cool coral.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's not one you ever really see too. So,
one that I like here, Sclema vietnamese. When I first came here in 2009, we were collecting these like green and red spirography type ones. It looked like as a kid, you take a frisbee at like a party that's like a frisbee and you put paint on it and spin it.
Yeah.
And you have like a weird, splatter pattern spin painted frisbee. Like they kind of look like that. So it's not like a bleeding apple Sclema, but it's got like radiating colors.
That's pretty cool.
One in every like 5,000 will be like purples, oranges, greens, like really crazy colors. I've seen maybe 3 in my time here, but occasionally they come in just nuts. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So when you get some of those, like when you're farming it, do a lot of them keep those crazy colors? Like, does it change?
Yeah.
Like, does it get better? Does it fade? Like, is there any big difference when you're farming?
No, they stay true to the parent. They stay true to the parent because we're collecting them and farming them close to where we've collected them on the same areas. A lot of it though, I'm hearing from long-term farmers, like people that have sold to the United States, that they've changed, they've matured, they've changed. But these are people that are blasting them with light, really trying to get peak colors. These are like, people that are trying to or successfully selling corals for many hundreds to sometimes $1,000 a frag.
Yep.
So they're tweaking their corals quite a bit. Everyone's got their secret formula, but a lot of the corals, like if I send them a blue Millipora with like, pinks and like pinks and green polyps, like it'll change on them. They'll end up being red. Like it just changes. Yeah. So, and I don't know, I can't say like, more light equals this, more blue or less light, or, they have their system, but they definitely do change in captivity.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so many of them too can be dependent on the trace element levels of certain things.
Correct.
Like there's so many things that can affect it.
Correct.
Yep.
Different pigments require different, different chromophores to produce. Yeah.
Exactly. Aquakiller. Tim, can you send me Solomon Island mud? That's actually an oddly interesting one because there's like all this stuff about bacteria now, and actually some sand and mud you probably could sell for like bacteria diversification.
I hope you'll forgive me. I remember meeting up with Walt in Fiji years and years, decades ago now. I'm old. But he was kind of chiding on how like, see that right there? And it was like an overpass. And he's like, like I collected mud there and like put it in a jar, like, so I don't know if I do that here. Like there's some pretty dirty areas, but like we could try just to see if it makes, for what it's worth. We did samples. We did ICP samples on a lot of different reefs that we collect on to see if it makes a difference. We couldn't see a difference in those ICP samples. But I'm willing to try it just as an experiment. Absolutely.
I think it would be worth the experiment because I know like a lot of hobbyist tanks, when people used to use live rocks, tanks were just more off the gate successful. Where now you use the sterile rocks and there's always like the uglies and the bacteria. Like there's all these hurdles you hop through before your tank gets to the happy stage. Where if you have, a handful of, diverse sand or mud and you throw it in there, it'll propagate it with a lot of the good stuff.
We tried to do live rock out of here. It just didn't hit the right sort of like our cost of sourcing, cost of shipping, landed cost. Most of it ends up going to the airlines. Like the vast majority of it ends up going to the airlines. And so it's like, I can only slice so much meat off the bone where it's like, I'm actually losing money to get it onto an airplane, to get it at a price point that people are used to selling. But we're trying, no, thank you. I'm good. Yeah. sun's off, and he's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It might be worth looking at sand or mud or something, right? Because it's a lot cheaper and lighter. So food for thought. Could be worth a dabble.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, because even, your systems there, I mean, you right beside the ocean, it's easy to get all that the goodness into it versus someone that's in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Dun-dun-dun. There's a couple other coral questions I saw a few minutes ago. Any more Acropora pinocchi?
Oh, Picnoy.
Picnoy, that's what it was. I knew I was saying that wrong.
That was the sad situation on that was when I collected it, I collected half of that colony, broke it into, of the half that I collected, I got 3 pieces out of it. It broke pretty evenly into 3. Those all went to ACI. That area, I haven't seen that coral since I went there, but that reef is, it was hit horribly by bleaching in like January, February of this year. So it being an outlier, like it was really in an area where normally Picnoy wouldn't be because it's a deeper water coral. It wasn't particularly deep actually, but it was in a really turbid, muddy, like gnarly reef. And so it was in an unlikely spot. And so I think that the chances of it surviving a bleaching event are, I would say, single digits. Yeah, it's unlikely. But of course, if I see it, I mean, there's definitely a thirst for that coral. And I would get it to the people that are going to catalog it and keep it. Not people that are going to flip it, but people that care about it. And that's that's why I went to ACI, because he really
he'll keep it and baby it for years until it's substantial enough to actually frag it.
Exactly.
No, Chris is a good one. But yeah, no, that's luck of the draw of eventually coming across it again somewhere out there.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, when you are going out there, do you have like certain spots that you regularly go to, or is every time you just go explore these places trying to find out those gems?
Again, goes to the sovereignty of landowners here. So different villages have different areas that are theirs. And then, of course, I'll have people that I collect from, and then someone will show up at my door and be like, well, I'm the actual landowner, like he's just been squatting on my land for 30 years and this has been in court. Like, I've had those. But yeah. But because each, number one, there's really bad or just a lack of documentation. There's not like they have surveys. This isn't the United States with hundreds of years of active surveying. So it's all sort of in its early development stages. And so like there's buyable plots of land that are measured, that have like surveys. But when you get out into the sticks, it's, well, my dad said that from this tree to this tree is ours. Or, bigger than that, but like, they have their landmarks. And so you collect on those areas. And then if their neighbor likes you or likes the idea of what you're doing, then they'll invite you to come over there. And so you have to develop these relationships over time. And so there's areas that I collect on mostly just because those are areas that we've worked out, and I'm not worried that like while I'm underwater, someone with a machete is not going to board my boat, because there is that threat.
Is there a lot of that? Does that happen very often out there?
But I've heard of it. I've heard of like pissing off the wrong people and they'll board your boat and want compensation.
I've heard stories in Florida where they're collecting, people would like go cut people's anchors and their boat would float away, like all kinds of nasty things.
That would be,
I was like,
so cutting an anchor is technically piracy. I know of a story here of a guy, I won't mention names, but a guy that almost as a prank, like a mean prank, but as a prank, cut a line of a guy, and he was actually convicted of piracy.
Crazy.
Like, international. Yeah. So yeah, no anchor cutting, but
that's a good thing. I heard a story once. I was like, that is intense.
Yeah. But there's definitely, people just look at this as like, this is my land, this is my resources. Like, in generations back, there was headhunting over lands. So like they it's very much like very protected. And so I'm overly conservative as far as like, go meet somebody, go meet the village elder, have a conversation, explain what we want to do, take other people who I've worked with there, so that I'm not just some random dude, and then we agree upon a set of conditions. Usually afterwards they'll want to like renegotiate and want more. It's just how it goes here. But in time you learn who's easy to work with and who's not, and you work with those people. There's enough reef at the scale that we're doing this. There's enough reef to operate that way.
No, that's pretty cool. Okay, Alyssa, is there any videos of diving? Here's one, just as a skimming through the ones. One of the shallower ones. Looks like one of the farms, different
Yeah,
areas.
yeah. So we had coral staged
Yeah.
after collection. We had it staged there. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So when you're so like each one of these is one that you've collected and now it's staging
hmm
before it's like on the racks, basically, right?
hmm
Yep.
Some of those that are too large will go to broodstock. This guy's reef, he does farm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of it will ferry over across and then chisel it down into smaller pieces or cut it down to smaller pieces. But that's just nice broodstock that we've collected over a lot of, like, this guy owns multiple reefs, multiple areas,
Mm-hmm.
and so we'll stage it there for later processing.
Okay, nice.
But it's gorgeous.
Then is that like the rough size that you put on racks, or would you break it off into like a?
It'd get broken down. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's way too big. These are all like, mother colonies. These are all, that big to, even that's too big to be farming out. You want small branches, because we're trying to have like the biggest two things that customers, the buying market wants, is variety of color and consistent sizes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to start with the same size broodstock, the same like seed sizes basically, so they grow up and mature at the same size.
So when you said it's 6 to 8 weeks, how big do you
Mhm.
start with, and how big is it after that 6
Like
to 8
finger
weeks?
size,
Okay.
finger size, or twin branches, but like
Yeah.
roughly, what is that, 3.5 inches?
Mm-hmm.
And we want to see it just starting to set out little new buds encrusted down onto the base, and then we use fishing line to tie it down instead of a glue or epoxy. Just that's what we can get here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to see the coral sort of enveloping the fishing line,
Yeah.
like growing around it. So it'll grow all the way down it, and you won't see it eventually. But
Mm-hmm.
that's to me an indicator that like the coral is growing and it's happy.
Yep, it's happy. It's based on to whatever it's mounted to. There's new branches. You're like, hey, it's happy
Mhm.
now. It's sellable.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's pretty good turnaround for it to base and everything else. Obviously
It's
happy in
quick,
the ocean.
but it's warm here. I mean, the water temperature 80 to 82 degrees pretty
Mm-hmm.
consistently, and it's warm. So metabolism of these corals is really high.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. How do you protect what's yours? Yeah, I mean, it's probably they have their own plots out there, and
it's a big I would say it's a big concern, not a big problem, but a big concern.
mm-hmm.
That we can plant corals, or that one farmer plants corals and someone else doesn't try to swoop them.
Has that happened?
I know what people are. It's a concern. Like I said, it's a concern more than a problem.
Fair.
I know what people grow.
Mm-hmm.
And this, if I catch wind that farmer A is stealing from farmer B, like I wouldn't encourage that. We'd shut that down very quickly.
Yep.
In other stations, we've had different systems, like in other countries have operated, where like so divers aren't stealing each other's corals to get because we used to do not a tip, a commission basically,
mm-hmm.
on the higher end corals, higher end fish they collect. And so we had like a code of like every time a diver turns in a fish, they have like a token basically, and we fill up a bag, and that's at the end of the month, that's what they get.
Yeah.
So we thought about doing like bases with like a code, so I know like this disc was made by this farmer, but it never really became an issue.
Yeah, well, that's fair. And then okay, yeah, that makes sense. And is there much competition out there? Like, is there other people trying to like go for
a very, very long time? I was the only exporter out of the country. There is a second exporter operating now, which has meant like I've had to change certain things I do. A couple of my dive sites got pretty well cleaned out, which wasn't cool.
Yeah.
That wasn't cool. But I tend to have there's nothing wrong with competition. Like, competition forces people to compete and make a better product. But I've like you're saying with farming, like I've had some concern that like if we stage coral, is that going to get poached? But it's never happened. We've respected each other's boundaries pretty well.
Oh, that's good. And I mean, the ocean's pretty big too, right? To actually find certain spots of stuff. And
exactly. I mean, there's so the Solomon Islands is 7 provinces. It's 1,000 islands individually.
Oh wow!
And for years there was before my time, my predecessor had a station doing something like 200 boxes a week, like 200 styrofoam boxes of export a week, which is I would say exponentially more volume than I do. And that was done on 2 islands, on like 2 little islands. It was the majority of his collection. So now, neither of us together is doing anywhere near that volume. Like, there's enough space where we've both of our operations are definitely operating on a bigger radius than that operation did. And like, there's there's enough coral, there's enough reef, there's enough coral to go around.
Yeah,
So
no, exactly. And then I guess just like another, out of my own curiosity, like when you find a nice coral and you take a chunk of it to
mhm,
reharvest out and regrow it later, like
mhm.
how big is like the average coral you find, and like how big of a chunk of it would you actually take?
Okay. Um, so a big millipora can be like 24 inches in diameter.
Hmm.
And so if I'm collecting on that, I'll take a couple pizza slices, like, because with the coral, because it radiates out like, kind of snowflake like, it'll have like a direction it wants to cleave to. So when you hit it with a chisel, it'll kind of cleave in that direction, and so you'll get like a pizza slice out of
Yeah.
that. And then I'll usually trim the thin part out to kind of make the all killer no filler when we're shipping it. There's less like little narrow bit.
Yeah.
Um, but like a big 24-inch um, disc, if I take half of it and leave half for later, that's going to yield like 6 to 8 colonies that
Hmm.
would get exported. Like it goes a long ways.
Yeah.
So one big wild coral goes a very long ways.
Hmm. No, for sure. And then I guess another question in the chat: how far do you travel out to the ocean farm a day? I think it's probably asking like if you're searching and collecting, like how far out do you
Yeah.
actually go to try and find new
What's our
stuff?
range? I don't really go much more than about like 30 miles, like
Hmm.
60 kilometers out. That's mostly like the bigger
Perimeter.
part of the radius of this island, and then across to Central Province and the areas in Central Province. Any further than that, you need a bigger boat. The ocean gets a lot scarier, and it's just harder. But we do have people in other provinces that are producing farming corals and sending back.
Hmm.
So in that way, we can cast a bigger radius. But for my daily collection, it's just too hard to go further afield. It becomes an expedition at that point
Yeah.
to go further.
Then is there like a big variety from island to island? Like this island has like a lot of this type and this island has a
There's
lot of this type, or is
yeah,
it mixed?
it's mixed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the same different islands have different exposures and different like topography.
Hmm.
So like a good example across in Central, there's where two islands are so tightly mated up, and over millions of years of the current pushing back and forth, it's created like a river channel through it. It looks like a river, but it's where two islands made up, and it's mangroves in between, and that area is like muddy and choked. There's only one or two other places in the country that have that exact topography, and they're in different provinces. Like
Hmm.
it's pretty unusual combination of like I guess topography
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
of map assets. So that's where we get cinerinas and chalices and things
Hmm.
like that. And it's you have to go pretty far to get that again, where it's dense, where I can say like I'm going to go to this reef and I'm going to collect X amount of these.
Yeah.
So in that way, there's definitely like different islands have different features. But on a given island, if you can spend the time underwater, you'll find most species on each island. You
Hmm.
really will. I've heard sort of anecdotally that there's more speciation as you go west, um, which was interesting because we took some researchers out last week, and there we saw on one dive we saw all 5 different tridacna clams that you get in this area, and they were kind of surprised because one of them, Durasa, doesn't occur west. So
Hmm.
he was like, "Oh, it's here!" Like he was pretty
Yeah.
happy to have found it here. But yeah, on one dive we found all 5 species. That was kind of cool.
That's cool.
Pretty happy
Nice.
about that. Yeah.
Okay, Alyssa, after farming and seeing corals out in the ocean as a hobbyist, what changed about your perspective besides flow? What would you recommend to us from personal findings?
Give corals more space to grow.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of tanks I just look at as collectoritis now. Even big fancy you know tanks to get like magazine cover treatment, where it just looks like they just bought a whole bunch of expensive frags and jammed them in together,
Mhm.
not letting corals get space to grow. I know there's sort of a financial aspect to it where like let's say someone has a frag of home wrecker, and the second it gets fist size, it's like, oh, those are frags I can sell to fuel buying more. But like home wrecker in the wild, tenuous is 14 inches or larger if it's old. Like these things take up the bigger part of a tank.
Yep.
Something that Jake had said to me a long time ago is like, don't show me your brand new setup tank. Don't show me like you're brand new. I slapped everything together and turned the lights on yesterday or last month.
Hmm.
Like show me a 5-year-old tank. Show me something that's matured and
Yep.
corals have sort of made a story. Like it's turned into something. So I think after seeing things in the wild, I definitely look. I want to see bigger corals. I want to see like less less chaos and like more of a symphony of corals.
Yeah, I am with you. I appreciate that. I hate it when everything's is too manicured, just the little pinner frags everywhere. You
Yeah.
would like mine then. Mine's just overgrown jungle.
Good. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's good. Yeah, I like big corals too, and I love the natural thing. Like half mine are growing into each other. They're starting to turn colors of each other, and all kinds of weird things happen, which is kind of fun. Yeah, so mature tanks are good. Don't overfrag your tank. 100% agree.
If I'd add to that, I would say like verticality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you rarely see tanks that are 6 feet deep, you know, but if you do, people are like, oh, I've got my, you know, I don't know, Trachyphilia on the bottom because that's deep, right? And then I've got, you know, my acropores on the top. And like, you know, Trachyphilia I'll see in snorkeling depth or shallower in mangroves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really a deep coral. And a lot of times I won't even look for chalice until I'm like 45 to 60 feet. And especially like Locani, I'm not looking until I'm 60 to 90 feet. Like that's the region you see that in. And so like where it's, you know, they've got their coral stage just because you can't simulate that depth.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times corals, they'll just have too many different species jumbled way too tightly together.
Well, it's because we have a 2 feet deep tank on average.
Right. So you have so much to play with. Yeah.
So what's the deepest that you collect corals from?
100.
Yeah.
Like semi-routinely 100. So when I was working in the Marshall Islands a long time ago, I would routinely dive 150 to 200 feet, and that was for fish collection, but there is coral there. So I'm working towards doing deeper dives, just having the gear and the equipment to do deeper dives and feel secure doing it. But yeah, I'll pretty routinely go to 100 feet. If we're collecting Locani, if we're collecting Blastomusa, things like that, we'll go pretty deep.
I guess, are those the main ones that you find down that deep?
Yeah.
And then I guess similar question. When you bring those back up to shallower depths, same thing. You probably got to like ease it into it so it doesn't get blasted with light.
So like with Blastomusa, it grows so slowly. It's never going to be farmed. It's always collect to sell. And that goes into a tank that's almost like covered. It's shaded.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the littlest bit of skylight just so they don't starve if it's going to be a few weeks before they go out.
Yeah.
But they're tucked into corners. They get as little light as possible. If I put them in an area where they're going to get ambient light, they'll give up. They'll give up the ghost quickly.
Yeah. So the very low part in the wild.
Super. Very, very, very low. Very low.
So shadows, overhangs, all fair game in tanks.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What was the one? I think it was it Acanthophilia that I remember? Again, I'm going to reference Jake stuff just because I was blessed to have a lot of good time with him. But like going to his studio, he was moving Acanthophilia around the studio because he couldn't find a place that had low enough light to make them happy long term.
Yep.
Because it's just you know, in mostly shallow reef flats, there was just no area that had low enough light. And I think it was in the overflow boxes is where they ended up in part. So, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I got you got to do sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What do you use to collect them? Do you have like a collection bag, or like what do you when you're diving to actually
a cold chisel or a brick chisel, and a little like 2-pound sledge, a little short 2-pound sledge, and a basket like a laundry basket basically. We've done a couple tweaks like putting floats and weights to keep them oriented when they're empty. We used to use 5-gallon buckets just because that's what we could get here. And we drill some holes in them and sort of make them a little better for diving. But because they were narrower, corals would stomp each other. And
I was
so
gonna say, do they
use the
fight and
baskets
roll
as
into
lower,
each other?
wider.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Is it
especially if
divvy up, or they're fine beside each other short term?
What was that?
Do they, like, are they gonna cause any issues short term together, like fights?
Just, coral tips are delicate. That's their like real soft skeleton, and so you're just mashing coral tips and really uglifying your coral. They'll heal. They're pretty remarkable at that. That you could do bone damage to something and it would heal, but it doesn't. It definitely lowers the quality of the product. And so by having a big, wide, shallow basket, I can sort of stage everything.
Space it out. And
afterwards, I can sort of densify it, put the corals that won't sting each other. And then once it's full, I can come up, get another empty basket and go collect more.
Yeah.
But it beats the corals up a whole lot less.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, hammer and chisel. It's pretty caveman level technology.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds fun to just go out there and like go find some cool ones, like little chunk, thank you.
Yep.
BQ, what's the scariest thing that happened during a dive? Have you had any sketchy scenarios?
So in my first trip here, we used to use a surface supply compressor.
Mhm.
It's illegal in most of the Pacific to use them because they're so dangerous, but that's what we had. It was mostly because, you know, there was no one to maintain tanks to check the hydrostatic pressure on the tanks. So like anything you operate is going to be out of legal specs anyways. So it was like, well, use a compressor, and that's what's standard for like abalone and lobster collection in Australia.
Mhm.
So when you're getting paid by the hour to collect, you want to be under as long as possible. People get hurt. So we were using a compressor. I was on the surface, and one of the first dives, or I'm sorry, I was under the surface. One of the first dives, I'm underwater and breathing, regular in my mouth. And, we're just going with like, a rash guard, a small weight belt, no BC, and a hose that goes up to the surface. And I'm underwater, and all of a sudden, out of air. And I'm at, 40 feet, 45 feet. Like I'm not particularly, maybe I was at 60 feet. I'm deep, but not scary deep. I mean, you can surface, but I hadn't been under terribly long, but it's sketchy. I mean, this is how you get bent,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm out of air, no warning. And so, and no one had ever taught me like what you do in this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought like, oh, well, if I go up, the hose is really long, there's a lot of volume. I'll reduce some pressure on the hose. It'll free up some pressure to breathe, some gas can breathe. So I liberate some pressure, go up to 45 feet, get a breath. Okay. Get another half breath. Okay, let's go up to 30 feet. Go to 30 feet. I'm trying to make this my ascent as slow as possible.
Yep.
And so I think I got to about 15 feet before they got the thing started up again.
Oh,
because it's just basically a little Briggs and Stratton attached to a compressor, and then it's got it. And this one, the frame, the tank was the frame of the whole thing. Yeah. But I mean, really, it's a Briggs and Stratton. It's a compressor, like an air compressor, and a tank. And when it failed, in this case, not only had the engine failed, but the pole starter was the cord had ripped out. Oh. And so he had to re-thread it every time to pull it, like a lawnmower starter, right? And so he had to re-thread it every time. So it made attempts to restart it really slow. So yeah, it was, I mean, that's deadly. Like you could kill somebody like that. So that was what I went out here as a 24-year-old kid and like, yeah, this is how we always do it, So I just took it as like, that's the job, Later on that same trip, we were down diving, and it was a day where there was, we just got like your drift dive, like just conveyor belt of water. And so what we had started to do, I'm diving with two Filipinos who speak very little English. And so we had sort of worked out that like we eat lunch after dive, we come up, we eat lunch because you're burning a lot of calories. And then you have some of the white rice, throw it in the water, and it'll drift in the direction of the current. Like that's your flag to know which direction the current's going to go. And we'll dive and follow that. And the boat will pull up anchor and just kind of trudge along as we collect. So we do that, throw it in, and the rice just shoots out. So it's like, okay, this is gonna be a really bad current this day. Okay, we're ready for it. So we go in. My senior diver, who like up to this point, I trust my life to him. Like I respect the heck out of this guy. He goes the opposite direction. He dives down and just starts grabbing rock and pulling himself. Right, and like that's not what we agreed to. I look over to my less senior diver, and he's like, we're going this way. And so the two of us go this way. But now there's a hose going up to the boat, and two are going this way, one's going this way. We just figured, okay, well, he's going to have to, maybe he sees one thing he wants. He's going to have to follow us. And so we're going to work. All of a sudden, so the reg hose goes over my shoulder, gets looped once around the weight belt and back. And again, this is how we used to do it. I haven't done it this way in 16 years, right? Because this. So I've got a bucket, hammer and chisel. I think I've got a couple corals in there. I'm chiseling coral off the reef, and all of a sudden, zzz, I get pulled. The boat had started up and was probably only going 15 miles an hour or so, but started up to go follow the bubbles of the other guy because he didn't see our bubbles went this way and his bubbles went that way. Yeah. So he starts zipping over to follow him, and we're getting towed underwater
through your regulator.
Through my weight belt, which was through the regulator hose. It's so dangerous. That
sounds sketchy.
I have heard, and I don't know if anyone can verify, I heard this from like a Navy diver, that at like 90 feet, if your regular hose snaps, the vacuum that induces will pull your tongue out of your mouth. Like it's incredibly dangerous.
That's so I've never dove with like the hose to the top. I've always had a tank. But that's good.
It's really cool. It's liberating because you have no equipment.
Yeah.
I just did like 2 little weights, and all your buoyancy controls in your lungs.
I did a video with a buddy that was like maintaining this like 2,000 gallon tank, And he's in there with like same thing, a compressor and just a regulator underwater cleaning the glass and stuff. I was like, never thought about diving that way. But yeah,
we would do a tank with a hose when I was doing servicing. It's just less equipment, less noise.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty crazy. It's cool though. The things we do for coral.
Yeah, that was terrifying. That was terrifying.
I believe it. Well, it's a good thing you're still here. Didn't do you in.
Yeah. I can live to tell that story. Yeah.
Yep. Any sharks? Is there sharks out there? PQ.
I have seen so few sharks the last couple of years. It's really sad.
Yeah.
It used to be. Now I'm diving different reefs than I used to back in 2009. So my experience in the Pacific is I spent better part of a year here, diving here, and then went to the Marshall Islands. Spent like 6 months in the Marshall Islands. In the Marshall Islands, it was like crawling with sharks. Like you'd see 30 or 40 sharks, and it was mostly white tip, like little kind of weaselly, like narrow, long
so like
white
4
tip
to 6
sharks.
foot white tips. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say even like 3 to 4. They were pretty small. They weren't that big, but they were really curious and kind of hoping I would scare a fish, and so they were always kind of there. They were ever present. I haven't seen it'd be black tip sharks in the dives I do here. I haven't seen sharks here. My friends who do tour diving, they're still seeing them. So it might just be the reefs that I'm going on, but it's a concern for me. I'm worried about like fish populations if you're not seeing sharks.
Yeah, that's a good point. The most I've ever seen was in the Galapagos Islands. There's some place we went where we go and there'd be like 50 sharks just hanging on this little current beside you, and it was pretty cool to see. Yeah. But that's the most dense place I've ever seen them in my life.
I haven't seen that. I've had like big bumphead parrotfish like getting up around us, and in like a ball, but like definitely getting really close, and that's it's a lot of big fish in your vicinity.
Is there any like sea creatures that are kind of sketchy when you're driving around you?
I don't like Titan triggers for good reasons, because they're aggressive. It's like having a street dog. It's like get out my yard. So I've had them do like very intentional swim up to me, like I'm gonna bite you if you don't start backpedaling. And so I very obviously I'm moving, please don't bite me. I almost got jabbed by a wasp fish relatively recently.
I don't know what that is.
I was flipping a rock over, and there was a little like cuckoo wasp fish underneath that rock. But I've never been jabbed by a lionfish. I've been pretty lucky in that way. So sea creatures, we're dealing with a kind of gnarly on the wind driven. So this side of Guadalcanal, but not in central. So I guess it'd be the northern coastline, because the coast the wind is driving the waves in this direction. There's like some rash inducing plankton in the shallow water.
Oh,
so so like in the areas we used to collect a lot of millipora, and like diving there this time of year is not fun. For like 2 days afterwards, you'll just be like really just itchy, and it sucks because you could be wearing a rash guard. It's somehow it's fine enough that it gets in the rash guard and still stings you. So we tried vinegar, we tried what else? Denatured alcohol. We tried everything after a dive. And it's just something you have to deal with.
I didn't even know what that. Yeah, that's no fun.
It's not sea lice. It's like it's some sort of stinging, very small planktonic thing.
Neomad, whatever they're called. But yeah, that's no fun.
It's not fun at all. Yeah.
The one sketchy one that I still remember was in the Galapagos. They had like a sea otter or sea lion, whatever it was, like big. It came like straight towards me and like beeline at the last second. Like that was freaky. That was one of those like
I had
moments.
I had a sea lion do that to me when I was 19. We went down to Mexico. It was like a marine biology field trip, and we were down there for a few weeks. But we went to like a breeding colony of sea lions. So you have the big males, the art, like just barking on the beach, and there was hundreds of female sea lions, and the female sea lions are curious. They jump in the water and they're looking at you, and then they move off. But we were in. And it was me, two professors, and a couple of students kind of behind us, kind of coming in like a V formation, right? And I was in the front. 2 professors were off to my right, and all the female sea lions just part like the Red Sea, all left and right. And I hadn't quite figured out what's going on. And then this column of bubbles starts like a missile coming at me, and then the bubbles part, and there's teeth behind them. I'm like, oh. And then it sees to the right of me is my two professors, and one of the professors he's like 6'5", he's a big dude, and so I guess the sea line's tabulation is like that must be the male,
Yeah.
So he gets in his face, he comes off me and gets in his face, and we all just stop and like, okay, too close.
Oh geez.
But it was literally all bark, no bite. But it was really threatening.
Well, it's intimidating because they're like
threatening.
500-800 pounds, this
They're like
massive
800
creature coming
plus.
towards. They're huge.
Yeah.
And they're fast.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was probably the most intimidating thing I've had.
Giant
Like
angry
sharks, whatever. They've been fine. They've been
Yeah.
docile. They're just hanging out. Those things, that was the sketchiest thing for me so far underwater. But
Yeah, I've been there. I probably should have checked my shorts. It was scary.
It's okay. They were unstilled by the time you came up. But yeah, that's crazy. Okay, in the chat, if there's any other things I missed or didn't ask, feel free to ask it again. I do got to wrap it up soon. I hear the child slowly outside hunting me down.
How old's yours?
3.
I have 3 as well. He's gonna be 4 next month. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, keep you busy. Alyssa, thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Otters, little buggers. Yes, they are. Skimming through all the comments, see if I missed any good ones. Tons of bull sharks and hammers. Yeah, hammers are kind of crazy to see. I've seen those once.
I've never seen a hammer.
Yeah.
I've never seen a hammer. Yeah, I would be a really happy guy if I saw a hammer. I know they're here, but again, like it's just not the reefs I'm diving on.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, whatever areas they're in. But yeah, okay. So for my own selfishness, to bribe somebody in Canada to import some stuff through you, it's $10 minimum.
Yeah. I mean, we have to work out new country, new import laws. Yeah. It's gonna be a little bit, but it's a barrier worth leading into. But yeah, I think for to do an import, really anything less than $10, it starts to kind of like, are we even breaking even? Yeah. On a business, but yeah, I think that's something we can absolutely.
Just so I know what I gotta start talking a couple people into. See what I can do. Any pests, any new SPS bugs? Do you have much of an issue with pests in the rocks? The farms? No?
Not at all. No, non-issue. The only time we've ever had like a real thing was the bleaching event, which was this year, and it passed. But it was hard to see because I hadn't seen that happen before. In the wild, we deal with crown of thorns, but again, they come and go. They're sort of on their own cycle. But pests, non issue. We do get like the blue-eyed crabs. I've heard them called gorilla crabs, but I thought those had to be hairier. But the crabs with a sharp tip, and they're definitely eating on coral. But on the corals that they're eating on, the corals are healthy enough here that it's not a problem. If it went to captivity where they're getting less light and less flow and less food, they're going to grow slower. Then the corals can be a problem. So we kill them on site. I'll feed them to triggerfish, whatever I have, in our raceways just for a pet fish at the time. And then I can look at a coral. If we're diving and a coral has a flatworm issue, you can almost see it. They definitely look sickly compared to other corals. And it's like, hit it with a hammer, and then you'll see like 80 flatworms like wriggle off and then reattach to the coral. It's really gross. But it's almost like when you see like a plant that's affected by like whiteflies, they're sort of hovering around it and just like feeding and breeding and feeding and breeding. And so like aquapores that have flatworms, also you'll see it. But on our farm corals, it's never come up on our farm corals.
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
They may have a flatworm because it's in the wild, but it's not like
to be an issue,
like an infestation. Yeah.
Huh, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I guess you see so many corals, you're like, yep, happy that one's not. We're gonna avoid that one. Yeah. No, super cool. K13. Do seasons change a lot with different species there, fish wise? Does it change much through the year?
I haven't noticed it. I know that we get cycles where there's more like juvenile blue tang or more juvenile clown triggers, but like they'll be frequent and then they won't be. But seasonally, that's about it. You don't get much of a season here. We're
rainy,
just over 8 degrees below the equator. Yeah, so there's like sunny and rainy, and then sunny and a little less rainy, and then sunny and a little more rainy. But like it's like it's blue skies now. It was like torrential rain yesterday, and it's blue skies and pretty and flat seas. This season, normally after about lunchtime, we'll get like a driving wind coming in from the northwest. When it switches to a driving coming from the northeast, that's when it's like, okay, now it's not going to be fun to be out there. That's when cyclone season picks up. But other than that, it's one day is pretty much like the next. There aren't really seasons per se. That's why like certain flowers and plants don't grow well here, because they don't have like cold seasons to trigger blooming and to induce any sort of like different growth.
Basically same weather every single day. So if electricity is super crazy out there, is it viable to get a bunch of solar panels and just have free power since you have all the sunshine at the equator?
One would think. One would think it would be. I priced out for my needs, like it was like a $6,000 or $7,000 package to like the batteries, the solar panels, which is pretty small.
Yep.
Now, this interesting act of legislation is that the only body authorized to generate electricity is the power company. So by law, if I generate solar panel, I have to feed it back into my own meter and pay them for it.
What?
Which is
you're not allowed to do it just for yourself?
By law, yes.
Oh, that's nasty.
So they're working on reforming it. You know, this is stuff that was written back when solar wasn't realistic, and it just hasn't been updated. But yeah, not trashing on anybody, but that is the act, and so it's preventing me from investing in solar.
That's crazy.
Like, why would I? Yeah. Other than redundancy, like if we have a power outage, I have power. But like my systems have gone like 8 to 12 hours without power without a problem. I pack the tanks light enough. There's enough surface area. Wind kind of sends ripples over the tank. So by being a sort of semi-outdoor facility, power outages don't terribly affect me. I've definitely had those nights where like, man, the power's been out for a long time, and like in the middle of the night I'll wake up and I'll get an oar and I'll just kind of move water around the raceways just to feel better about it. But
just sneak yourself in like a 30-watt one just right beside your raceway just for your single power head, just keep her going.
I could, but again, technically I'm not supposed to do that.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, locals will use like a little tiny solar panel for like an indoor light and things like that. And technically that's in violation of the law. But just the way things are here, being a foreigner, I just don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Don't want to poke the bear and mess with things. Yeah.
So until that legislation changes, it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Alyssa, Devin, can Tim come back again? I want to see his farm, please. Lots of people said they would love to have you on again.
Oh yeah, I'd love to be back on. I'll take more, you said B-roll footage, right? So until last week, I didn't have the ability to upload anything, or at least dependably upload anything. I told you before we were online, like I have an intern here and he does a lot of like video production stuff. So like the trade is like, I'm showing him my end of the trade and then I learn video production from him. So I'll start collecting more for our next time. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I'll preload a bunch next time so we can play clips as we're talking about it too. Sure. But yeah, awesome. Thank you for joining me today. I always love having you on.
It's been fun. It's been real fun. I'm sniffly. Hopefully I'm not sniffly next time.
No, it was well worth it. Definitely appreciate you coming on today. And let's do it again in, a couple months.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, guys. And thanks for hanging out. And yeah, if you guys, your stores, your people get it in, make sure to ask about the purple monster corals.
I guess if we do everything right by next time, you'll have some corals to show.
I'm going to work on finding a Canadian situation here. We'll chat about this later. Okay. Sounds awesome. Good. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good night.